Hi there, everybody. Hopefully you can see me okay. I'm in my studio at the moment. My name is Trisha Leigh Shufelt, and I am the author and artist behind the Poe Tarot. And I thought today I would come to you and just kind of talk about the deck and show it to you. It is starting to make its way to you, which is really nice. I know it's been delayed a few times, mostly due to shipping issues that we're all kind of experiencing right now. So please don't blame me or the publisher. We really have nothing to do with that. It's way beyond our control. But the decks are making their way to you now, so this is nice. I'm starting to see pictures come in dribs and drabs, and people talk about it on their Instagram accounts and YouTube. And overall, the feeling is warm and lovely, and I'm so grateful to everyone who is talking about the deck and loving the deck. So I thought it might be nice if I came out of hiding and introduced myself and told you a little bit about me and my background and why I created this deck, why it's a labor of love to me. I am an artist, a self-taught artist. I've been in business since 2004. I am also an author. I write under the pen name Andalee Archer, if anyone's interested in that. It's dark fantasy types of books on fairies and that kind of thing. Like I said, I've been an artist for a long time, a professional artist since 2004. And let's see, I've worked in practically every medium you can think of. I started out as a sculptor, and then I bridged into some digital artwork. From there, I started doing a lot of drawing and painting, and I've worked in acrylics, I've worked in mixed media, in ink, and watercolor, and color pencil, you name it, I've done it. And I love it all. And oftentimes I will incorporate a lot of mixed media into my artwork because that is what I love to do. I like to, add elements of texture and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. So the Poe Tarot, let's talk about that because that's why you're here. The Poe Tarot has been a labor of love for many, many years. And it started out as a completely different deck, one that I was going to self-publish and kickstart and do all that. And I thought it was such a great idea at the time that I decided to take it to my current publisher and show them my idea, and it got rejected. But I'm so grateful that it did because it caused me to, if you hear something, that's my kitty cat. Playing. What are you playing with? What do you have? What do you have? It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I'm gonna have to figure out what this is. Sorry about that. She just brought me a present. It actually looks like a wing. Some kind of, but it's obviously broken off of something, so I'll have to figure out what she broke. At any rate, okay, so my publisher rejected the deck, which I'm very grateful for because, as I said, it caused me to go back to the drawing board and reassess why I was doing it, what could make it better. And I realized what I needed to do was put myself into it because I really wasn't doing that. I was taking quotes from Poe, and I was taking images and kind of putting it all together, but it wasn't my artwork. It wasn't my concept, really. It's not that it belonged to anybody else. It's just that it wasn't me. So I started to think about, well, what if I could do anything, if I could create any type of deck, and I wanted it to incorporate Poe, what would I want it to look like? And I immediately started thinking about Ed Gorey's work and the Fantog deck, which many collectors have. If you don't have it, it's quite a enchanting deck. It's not really oracle or tarot. It's its own kind of animal, but it was probably one of the first decks I ever collected, because I have a great love for Ed Gorey and his whimsical, macabre type artwork. I remember watching, what was it? There was a series that was on PBS, Masterpiece Theater, and they would have in the intro, it was his illustrations, and they were animated, and it was like the fainting ladies, and they were all dressed very elegantly, and I just remember at the time being so enchanted by that. And I thought, if I could create a deck, I would want it to be kind of like that, whimsical and macabre, but illustrations. So kind of like that style, but I obviously didn't want to, duplicate or, Mr. Gorey, because that would be completely wrong. So it was like, okay, how can I make it my own, but make it in that vein? So that's what I came up with for the Poe Tarot, the artwork I wanted. And I was also connected to Harry Clark, too, whose artwork was, he actually did some Poe drawings and illustrations, black and white illustrations that were very dark and macabre and yet kind of whimsical in that sense. So I wanted to kind of pay homage to both of these artists in this work, and obviously to Edgar Allan Poe. And then I thought back to when I was first introduced to Poe, which was probably like most people I know, when we were in school and we were young kids and we were reading the poem The Raven. I had to have my tea in my Pomea cup mug. So, excuse me. So I remember reading The Raven, and it being difficult for me to read at the time, and I didn't really understand it, but I also knew there was something about it that was really quite unique and wonderful and magical and fantastical, and I was like, I just love this. And then I started, as I got older, exploring Poe's works, and so he's kind of been with me my whole life in that respect. I've always had a love for him. And of course his story. And that was very important to me when I created the Poe Tarot, is I wanted it to be about Edgar Allan Poe as though he were the fool traversing the fool's journey. So you're going to see many aspects of Poe in this. You will physically see him as a main character on the cards. I think there's over 20 cards with his image on it. And then, of course, the other cards relate to aspects of Poe's stories and poems. So they were pulled directly from that, of what I thought of people he might interact with, or actual, for example, the Tower makes a direct reference to Fall of the House of Usher. So that's part of it. That's a direct link. And then there are his beloved, well, not his beloved cat, Pluto, because he had a different cat. That was his beloved cat. But Pluto, obviously, from the story of the Black Cat, makes an appearance and figures heavily in the paw suit, which is the coin suit or pentacle suit. So basically we are following Poe and the people he would interact with along the fool's journey. And of course, every card has a quote. This was really important to me. This was something I wanted, not just in the book, I wanted it to be part of the card, and this was probably the hardest thing for me to do because I had to go through all of his work and pick the ones that I thought would resonate with you, not just to read the quote, but that would resonate with the card, what the card meant. But, kind of offer further meaning that you could delve into. So I had to, scour all these works that he had. And I know there's those quotes that I could have put in that I didn't, that you might say, oh, why didn't she use this one? This one's my favorite. I really had to make it sort of mesh up to what I thought would be, good for the cards, good for everything. So there might be some favorites that are not in there, but I tried to get as many as I could in there. And then I tried to get things from letters, and so it wasn't just his stories and poems. It was letters that he had written to people, or quotes that he had said in interviews or in public or whatever, that were recorded throughout history. So that's a part of it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in a part 1, part 2, because I really want to show you the deck, and I'm talking a lot about sort of the creative process. So, and I know many of you get to the deck. So I figure I'll do this in a part 2. So if you're totally not interested in about me or how I came to create this, I totally get it. And you can go on to part 2, which will be the actual physical deck, and I'll go through all the cards. But I'm trying to think if there was anything else that was really important to this creation. And of course, I think, just thinking of it now, when I started this deck, like I said, a long time ago, and it was a different looking deck altogether. I started it before the pandemic. So once the pandemic hit and I was really knee deep in creating the new deck, it took on a whole different meaning for me. I started thinking about the things that Edgar Allan Poe had experienced. He knew death. He knew death really, really well. He had experienced it so much throughout his life, with the loss of his mother and his wife and other people that were very, very close to him. So, not to make light of what we're still going through, but it kind of made me look at it all, of how frightening and fearful he might have been, like so many of us have been throughout this pandemic, and how he would have coped, and I think a lot of his coping was going inward and presenting it outwardly through his stories and his poems. That's just my guess. And as an artist and writer, that's what I usually do. That's what I typically do, is that I channel that type of fear, or even if it's not fear, just pain, loss, suffering, love, happiness, joy, whatever it might be. I channel it into my artwork and my creations, and I believe that's exactly what Edgar Allan Poe was doing throughout his life in his creations. So thank you for listening to me babble on about how this deck came to be. I'm sure I will think of other things that I didn't put in here, but for now I'm going to stop this video, and I'm going to come back and show you the deck. So I hope you will join me.